They believed humans were myths. Then their armada arrived. Part 1: The Old Stories. The great hall of the Galactic Concord stretched for miles. Its walls were made of living crystal that changed color with the mood of those inside. Today, the crystals glowed a calm blue. 17 species had gathered here for 80,000 years to keep peace among the stars. They believed they knew everything worth knowing about the galaxy. They were wrong. Ambassador Eth stood at the central platform. He was a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms. His people were known for their wisdom and their long memories. Today, he felt annoyed. A young scholar had requested time to speak before the assembly, and the elders had granted it out of politeness. The scholar's name was. She was barely 200 years old, which was very young for a. She carried ancient data tablets that glowed with soft light. Her hands shook slightly as she addressed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Honored assembly," she began, "I have spent 30 years studying the forbidden texts, the ones we call the human records." Soft laughter rippled through the hall. The crystals flickered with amusement. Eth sighed. "Young one, those texts are children's stories, morality tales. They warn us against violence and chaos, nothing more. With respect, Ambassador, I believe they are historical documents." The laughter grew louder. A delegate from an ancient species of floating beings wrapped in light, spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. "You suggest that these humans actually existed, beings who waged war against their own kind, who ate the flesh of other creatures, who conquered disease through stubbornness alone." "Yes," said, "I believe they were real." "Impossible," Eth said. "Such creatures could not survive. They would destroy themselves within a generation. The texts are clearly myths, designed to teach young ones the dangers of emotion and conflict." Pressed a control on her tablet. A star map appeared in the air above the assembly. One section was marked in red. "The Sol sector," she said. "For 12,000 years, quarantine buoys have surrounded this region of space. They transmit a single message on repeat: do not enter, by order of the founders." The laughter stopped. The crystals shifted to an uneasy yellow. "We all know about the quarantine," Eth said carefully. "The founders placed it there for reasons they chose not to share. It is not our place to question." "But why?" asked. "Why seal off an entire sector? Why leave no explanation, unless there was something there, something real, something dangerous?" Elder Counselor drifted closer to the young scholar. Its light pulsed in complex patterns that Eth could not read. "You speak of things best left forgotten," the elder said. "The founders had their reasons. We honor their wisdom by not asking questions." "But the buoys are failing," said. "One by one, over the past century, they have gone silent. Something is happening in that sector. Something is waking up." The assembly erupted in noise. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded more information. Others demanded that be silenced. The crystals flashed red and orange with conflict. Eth raised all 4 arms for quiet. It took several minutes for order to return. "Young scholar," he said, "you have given us much to consider, but without proof your theories remain just that, theories." Nodded slowly, she looked defeated, but as she gathered her tablets to leave, an alarm cut through the great hall. The crystals turned pure white, emergency lighting. A communications officer rushed to the central platform. His scales were pale with fear. "Ambassadors," he gasped, "Deep Space Station 47 has gone silent." "Which station?" Eth asked. "The one at the edge of the Sol sector quarantine zone." The hall fell completely silent, stopped walking. She turned back to face the assembly. "Show us the final transmission," Eth commanded. The air above the platform flickered. An image appeared, sent from the station moments before it went dark. The quality was poor, full of static and interference, but what it showed was clear enough. Ships, thousands of ships. They poured out of fold space like water through a broken dam. They were unlike anything the conquered had ever seen. Their designs were angular and aggressive, built for war rather than beauty. They moved in perfect formation, each vessel knowing exactly where it needed to be. And on every hull the same symbol, a blue sphere crossed with lines. "What is that emblem?" someone whispered. Answered, her voice was steady now, filled with the calm that comes when your worst fears prove true. "It is called Earth," she said. "The human, a planet of water and land, marked by the lines they used to navigate its surface." "How many ships?" Eth asked the communications officer. The officer checked his readings 3 times before answering. 17,000 confirmed, more emerging every minute. 17,000 warships. The entire conquered military numbered barely 5,000. The elder counselor drifted to the center of the platform. Its light had dimmed to almost nothing. "The old records," it said quietly. "The ones we sealed away, the ones we swore never to open." "What records?" Eth demanded. "What do you know?" "The founders did not quarantine the Sol sector to protect the galaxy from humans," the elder said. "They quarantined it to trap them, to contain them while they were destroyed." "Destroyed, you mean?" "We tried to kill them all. 12,000 years ago, the founders launched a war of extinction against a species that had barely reached its own moon. We tried to end them before they could become a threat." Eth felt his blood turn cold, and we failed. "So it would seem." On the display, the human fleet continued to grow. Ship after ship emerged from fold space, taking their positions in the Great Formation. They did not advance. They did not retreat. They simply waited. Stepped back onto the platform. No one tried to stop her. "They have been in there for 12,000 years," she said. "Alone, surrounded by the weapons we used against them, learning, building, growing stronger." "What do they want?" Eth asked. "I do not know," admitted, "but I think we are about to find out." The assembly watched in silence as more ships appeared. 17,000 became 20,000, then 30. The human armada filled the edge of known space, patient and quiet and waiting. The myths had come to life, and they had brought an army with them. They believed humans were myths, then their armada arrived. Part 2, First Contact. 3 weeks passed, the human fleet did nothing. It sat at the edge of conquered space like a sleeping beast. It did not attack. It did not retreat. It did not even try to communicate. 30,000 warships hung in the void, arranged in patterns so perfect they seemed painted against the stars. The conquered sent messages in every language they knew, 400 different tongues, from the musical speech of the to the mathematical pulses of the crystalline minds. The humans answered none of them. Ambassador Eth stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Hope of Stars. Behind him, a crew of the galaxy's finest translators and diplomats waited in nervous silence. "Perhaps they do not want to talk," said Captain, a warrior of the species. Her scales were battle-scarred and her eyes were hard. "Perhaps they only want war." "Then why wait?" Eth asked. "They outnumber us 6-1. If they wanted war, they would have attacked already." "Maybe they are afraid." Eth looked at the human fleet on the. Each ship bristled with weapons. Their hulls showed signs of countless battles, scars that had been repaired but never hidden. These were not the ships of a frightened people. "No," he said, "they are not afraid, they are deciding." "Deciding what?" "Whether we are worth talking to." For 3 weeks, Eth had tried everything. He had broadcast greetings and threats. He had sent gifts of art and technology. He had even played music from every conquered species, hoping something might reach them. Nothing worked. Now he had only one option left. He walked to the communication panel and began to speak in Old Conquered, a language dead for 60,000 years. It was used only in ceremonies now, a relic of the time before the current assembly was formed. "We come in peace," he said, his tongue struggling with the ancient words. "We wish to speak. We wish to understand. Silence. Then a light blinked on his console, a response. Finally, Captain breathed. A single ship broke away from the human formation. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. It carried no visible weapons. It approached the Hope of Stars slowly, giving them plenty of time to scan it, to study it, to see that it meant no harm. One passenger, the sensor officer reported. One life form, human. The shuttle docked with a gentle thump. Eth walked to the airlock, his 4 hearts beating fast. Behind him, armed guards formed a protective line. Captain's hand rested on her weapon. The airlock opened. Eth had studied the ancient texts. He had seen the drawings and descriptions, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of a human being. She was small, barely reaching his chest. Her skin was brown, smooth and soft-looking. Her eyes faced forward like a predator's, both aimed at the same target. When she saw them, her lips pulled back to reveal white teeth. The guards raised their weapons, a threat display. Peace, the human said, holding up both hands, palms out. In my culture, this is a smile. It means I am happy to meet you. She spoke Old Concord. Her accent was strange, but her words were clear. I am Commander Sarah of the United Human Federation. I have come to talk. Eth found his voice. How do you know this language? It has been dead for 60,000 years. Not dead, said. We learned it from those who tried to kill us. She walked past the guards as if they were not there. Her movements were smooth and confident. She studied Eth with those forward-facing eyes, and he felt like prey being measured by a hunter. 12,000 years ago, continued, a fleet came to our solar system. They called themselves the Architects. They spoke this language you call Old Concord. They told us that we were a mistake, that our species was too dangerous to exist, that they had come to correct the error. The founders, Eth whispered. Is that what you call them? We call them murderers. His voice remained calm, but her eyes were hard. They bombed our cities. They poisoned our water. They tried to burn our world to ash. When we fought back, they sealed us behind a wall of satellites and left us to die. But you survived. Yes, that word carried the weight of 12,000 years. We survived. We rebuilt. We grew strong. We captured their observation posts and watched your Concord grow fat and comfortable while we struggled in the dark. Captain stepped forward. You have come for revenge. Looked at her. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she did something strange. She laughed. Revenge. Captain, if we wanted revenge, we would have taken it long ago. We have had 12,000 years to plan, to build, to prepare. We could have destroyed your precious Concord 100 times over. Then what do you want? Eth asked. Smile faded. Her eyes grew serious. The Architects, your founders, they did not stay to watch us die. They fled. They ran to the edge of the galaxy and beyond, into the void between stars. We tracked their path. We know where they went. Why does that matter? They are gone. Because they are coming back. Pulled a small device from her belt and activated it. A hologram appeared, showing the galaxy from above. A red line traced from the outer edge inward, pointing like an arrow at conquered space. We have detected their return fleet. It will arrive in approximately 3 years. They are not coming alone. They bring weapons that make ours look like children's toys. Eth stared at the hologram. His mind struggled to process what he was hearing. The quarantine was never meant to be permanent, said. It was meant to hold us until they returned to finish the job. But they made a mistake. They underestimated us. They gave us 12,000 years to learn, to adapt, to prepare. You want an alliance, Eth realized. Yes, the Architects tried to destroy us because they feared what we might become. They will try to destroy you for helping us. Whether you choose to fight beside us or not, you are already their enemy. Eth looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Curiosity, wonder, hope. Why should we trust you? He asked. Commander met his gaze. In her eyes he saw something he did not expect: pain, loss, the weight of 12,000 years of suffering. "You should not trust us," she said. "You do not know us. You have only myths and stories and fear, but we are here, ambassador. We are real, and we are offering you a choice that the architects never gave us." She extended her hand, palm up, a human gesture of peace. "Choose wisely." They believed humans were myths. Then their armada arrived. Part 3: The Weight of History. The Concord was breaking apart. In the Great Hall, delegates screamed at each other. Some demanded immediate war against the humans. Others begged for alliance. The ancient ones who floated in light had recalled all their citizens from conquered space. They refused to explain why. Watched from the shadows, the young scholar who had warned them about the humans was now the most hated person in the assembly. Some blamed her for bringing this disaster. Others wanted her help to understand it. She avoided them all. Late one night, a message arrived on her personal device. It contained no words, only coordinates, a meeting place on the dark side of the station. She went alone. Commander Sarah waited in the shadows. Without her military uniform, she looked almost fragile, almost harmless. Knew better. "You are the one who studied our records," said. "You believed when no one else did." "I studied myths," replied. "I never imagined they were true." "The best myths are true. That is what makes them powerful." Stepped closer. "I need your help." "Why would I help you? Your people terrify us." "Because what is coming should terrify you more. And because you are a seeker of truth. I have something to show you, but I need someone who understands conquered politics. Someone who can help others accept what they will learn." Hesitated. Every instinct told her to refuse, to return to safety, to hide from this dangerous creature with predator eyes and a smile full of teeth. But she was a scholar, and the truth called to her like a song. "Show me," she said. Led her to the central archives, the heart of conquered knowledge. It was a living building, its walls made of organic crystal that stored information in its very structure. 80,000 years of history lived here. Every discovery, every treaty, every war. "The founding records are sealed," said. "Even I cannot access them." "You cannot," agreed. "But we have been watching your archives for a very long time. We know how to ask the right questions." She pressed her hand against a crystal wall. The surface rippled like water. Colors swirled and shifted. Then ancient text appeared, glowing gold against the crystal. Read the words with growing horror. "The original Concord was not 17 species," she whispered. "It was 18. The architects said. They built everything. The fold gates that allow faster-than-light travel, the communication networks that connect your worlds, the translation systems that let different species understand each other. They were the founders of your civilization." "Why did they leave?" "Because of us." His voice was bitter. "They found humanity when we were still young, still bound to our single world. They saw our potential and feared it, so they decided to end us before we could begin." More text appeared. Images. Records of a war that happened before the current Concord was born. "They sent a fleet to Saul," continued. 100,000 ships against a species that had barely invented nuclear power. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. Watched the ancient recordings. Human cities burned. Human ships, primitive and slow, threw themselves against architect vessels in desperate attacks. Humans died by the billions. But they did not stop. "We could not defeat them," admitted. "We could barely scratch their shields, but we made them pay for every inch. We made them bleed. We showed them something they had never seen before." "What?" "A species that refused to die. A species that would fight to the last child, the last breath, the last heartbeat. A species that would rather burn than surrender." The records showed the architects retreating, not in victory but in fear. "They sealed us behind the quarantine and fled to the void between galaxies. They could have finished us, but they were afraid. Afraid of what we might become if they stayed. Afraid of what we might do if they gave us more time. So they left you to die slowly. Yes, they expected the quarantine to kill us. Without access to other star systems, without resources from beyond our solar system, they thought we would starve. They were wrong again. Called up another set of records. This time they were human. Saw 12,000 years compressed into moments. Humanity rebuilding from the ashes. Humanity learning to survive on a ruined world. Humanity capturing architect observation posts and studying their technology. Humanity building ships, first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. We dismantled every architect weapon left in our system, said. We learned how fold space works. We expanded to 40 star systems within the quarantine zone, building in secret, growing in strength. And we watched. Watched us. Watched everything. The conquered grew and prospered. Species joined and cooperated. You built a civilization that would have amazed our ancestors. Paused. And you forgot about us. We became myths, stories to scare children. Understood now. The humans had not come for revenge. They had come because they had no choice. The architects are returning. Yes, we detected their fleet 5 years ago. Millions of ships carrying weapons that make ours look like toys. They are coming to finish what they started. Not just against us, but against any species that might have helped us, might have learned from us, might have been contaminated by our existence. The entire conquered. Every world, every species, they will burn it all to be certain. Sank against the crystal wall, the weight of history pressed down on her. Why are you telling me this? Because the conquered is fracturing. Half your species want to fight us, half want to join us. If you go to war against each other, the architects will find nothing but ashes when they arrive. Knelt beside the young scholar. I need you to help them understand, not through fear but through truth. The truth that your people have been watching us for, the truth that we tried to destroy you. They will never forgive that. Perhaps not, but forgiveness is not what we need. Stood and offered her hand. We need unity. We need every ship, every weapon, every mind working together. We need a galaxy that stands as one. Looked at the human's hand. Such strange creatures, 2 arms instead of 4, 5 fingers instead of 7. So small, so fragile, so impossibly stubborn. Why do you care about saving us? She asked. After everything we did to you, why not let the architects destroy us? Smiled. It was not a predator's smile this time. It was sad, weary, ancient. Because that is what they would expect us to do, and we have spent 12,000 years proving them wrong. She pulled to her feet. Come, we have a galaxy to convince. They believed humans were myths. Then their armada arrived. Part 4. The Nature of Humanity. The galaxy watched as humans spread across conquered space. Not as conquerors, but as diplomats. Thousands of them traveled to every world that would receive them, speaking languages they had learned through centuries of observation, understanding customs that the conquered species themselves had forgotten. Ambassador Eth found it deeply unsettling. They know everything about us, he said too. They stood on a balcony overlooking the diplomatic quarter, watching human representatives meet with delegates from a dozen species. Our history, our weaknesses, our fears. They have been studying us like insects under glass. Can you blame them? Asked. They were alone for 12,000 years. What would you do with all that time? Prepare for revenge. Perhaps, but look at them, Ambassador. Really look. Eth watched more carefully. A human diplomat sat with a group of warriors, listening to their battle songs with genuine interest. Another human was teaching children a game that involved chasing a ball. A third was helping elderly translate ancient poetry into standard conquered. They are not behaving like conquerors, said. They are behaving like guests who desperately want to be accepted. Or like predators who are very patient. You still do not trust them. Do you? was silent for a long moment. I trust that they need us. The architects are coming, and even humanity cannot face them alone. Whatever their true nature, their survival depends on our cooperation. A commotion below drew their attention. A group of soldiers had surrounded a human woman. They were one of the species that had refused alliance. They believed humans were demons from old legends, come to destroy all life. The human woman was small, even by human standards. She wore no weapons. She faced the armed soldiers with that strange human calmness that looked so much like either courage or insanity. "You do not belong here," the leader growled. "Your kind brings only death." "I bring only words," the woman replied, "and the hope that words will be enough." The raised his weapon. "We do not want your words. We do not want your alliance. We want you gone from our galaxy." "It was never your galaxy. It was never ours. It belongs to everyone who lives in it." Eth moved toward the stairs, ready to intervene, but caught his arm. "Wait," she said. "Watch." The leader struck the human woman across the face. She fell to the ground. Blood flowed from a cut on her cheek. The crowd gasped. The woman stood up slowly. She wiped the blood from her face and looked at it. Then she looked at the leader. "Is that all?" she asked. They struck her again. She fell again. She stood again. "You can hit me as many times as you want," she said. "You can kill me if that will make you feel safer. But there are billions more like me, and we will keep coming back. We will keep offering our hand, because that is what we do." "Why?" The leader seemed genuinely confused. "Why suffer for beings you do not know?" "Because 12,000 years ago we were alone. No one came to help us. No one offered alliance. We had only ourselves." The woman smiled through the blood on her face. "We promised ourselves that if we ever met other species, we would never let them feel that alone, even if they hated us, even if they feared us, even if they tried to kill us." The leader lowered his weapon. He stared at the small human woman as if seeing her for the first time. "You are insane," he said. "Probably," she agreed. "But we are also here, and we are not going away." News of the incident spread across the Concord within hours. The human woman became a symbol. Some called her a fool, others called her a saint, but everyone talked about her. 2 days later, a Concord battle group from the anti-human faction attacked a human civilian transport. The ship carried families, teachers, artists, people who had volunteered to share human culture with the galaxy. The human military response was immediate, but it was not what anyone expected. 100 human warships intercepted the Concord battle group. They surrounded it completely, cutting off all escape. The Concord commanders prepared for death. Instead, the humans disabled every weapon on every Concord ship without firing a single lethal shot. Precision strikes that left engines intact but weapons destroyed. No casualties on either side. Then Commander's voice came over all channels. "You have attacked our civilians, our children, our teachers. By any law of war, we would be justified in destroying you completely." The conquered commanders waited for death. "But we do not want your death. We want your understanding. We want you to see that violence is not our first choice. It is our last." Paused. "You are free to go, return to your homes. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that humanity could have killed you and chose not to. Then ask them if they want to be our enemy or our friend." The conquered ships retreated in shocked silence. Ambassador Eth received a personal message from that evening. "You showed mercy," he said when they met. "Why?" "Because mercy is stronger than revenge," replied. "The architects expect us to be the monsters they always feared. Every time we show kindness instead of cruelty, we prove them wrong. Every time we offer our hand instead of our fist, we become something they cannot understand. You truly believe you can change hearts by being kind to those who hate you?" "No," admitted. "Some will always hate us, some will always fear us, but others will see, others will wonder, Others will ask themselves if the stories they were told were true, and slowly, one by one, they will choose hope over fear. Eth studied the human commander. He had seen her face death without flinching. He had seen her offer peace to enemies. He had seen her plan for a war 12,000 years in the making. "What are you?" he asked. "Really? What kind of species survives extinction, watches its enemies prosper, and then offers them alliance?" Thought for a long moment before answering. "We are the species that learned how to suffer and still love. We are the species that was broken and chose to heal. We are the species that looked into the darkness and decided to become the light we needed." She turned to face the stars. "The architects are coming. They are bringing death and destruction beyond anything this galaxy has ever seen. They believe they can extinguish hope itself." Her smile was fierce and bright. "They have never met humanity. They believed humans were myths. Then their armada arrived." Part 5: Humanity Fuck Yeah. The threshold was a gap between galaxies, a place where stars gave way to endless darkness. Here, at the edge of everything, the Allied fleet gathered to face extinction. Ambassador Eth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching ships arrive from every corner of the Concord. Cruisers flew beside destroyers. Science vessels shared formation with battleships. Even the had come, their ancient vessels glowing with light that had witnessed the birth of civilizations. But they were outnumbered. The architect fleet that had emerged from the void between galaxies numbered in the millions. Vast ships the size of moons, carrying weapons that had been old when the first conquered species discovered fire. 2 million of our ships against 20 million of theirs," Captain said grimly. "Even with the humans, we cannot win." A new signal appeared on their sensors, then another, then thousands more. From the darkness behind them, a second human fleet emerged. Not the 30,000 ships that had first arrived at conquered space. 2 million warships, each one bearing the blue sphere of Earth, each one crewed by humans who had prepared for this battle their entire lives. Commander's voice came over the Allied channel. "Did you really think we showed you our full strength? We have been building this fleet for 8,000 years. Every human who ever lived has contributed something to this moment." For the first time in weeks, Eth smiled. "All ships," commanded. "This is Commander Sarah assuming tactical command of Allied forces. The beings you see before you tried to exterminate humanity 12,000 years ago. They failed. Today, they will learn why." The architect fleet moved first. They advanced like a wall of darkness, their weapons charging with energy that made sensors scream in warning. The first exchange was devastating. Architect weapons cut through conquered shields like paper. Ships exploded by the hundred. The Allied fleet began to fragment as species broke formation to flee or fight alone. "We are losing," shouted. "Their weapons are too powerful." "Not for long," replied. "All human engineering teams execute Protocol Unity." Across the battlefield, something impossible happened. Human shuttles launched from their warships and flew directly toward damaged Allied vessels. They were not rescue craft. They were engineering teams. While the battle raged around them, human engineers boarded crippled conquered ships and began rebuilding them. They installed human shield generators, human weapons, human targeting systems. Working at speeds that should have been impossible, they transformed dying vessels into something new. A cruiser that had lost all power flickered back to life with a hybrid fusion core. A destroyer that had lost its main guns suddenly fired beams of energy that punched through architect armor. A science vessel began broadcasting jamming signals that confused architect targeting computers. "How is this possible?" Eth demanded. "We have been preparing for this answered. "We designed our technology to be compatible with every species in the Concord. Every ship we touch becomes something more than it was." The battle shifted. The Allied fleet was still outnumbered, but now they fought as a single force. Human tactics, strategy, ferocity, innovation. Species that had been strangers days ago now moved as one organism. But it was not enough. The architects were too many, too powerful. They pressed their advantage, pushing toward the human flagship. "They think we are the heart of this fleet," said. "They think if they destroy me, humanity will break." "Will you?" Laughed. It was a wild sound, full of joy and madness and 12,000 years of rage. "Let them try." She gave a single order. Her flagship accelerated directly into the center of the architect formation. Enemy vessels surrounded her, weapons locked and ready. "Commander, what are you doing?" Eth screamed. "What we have always done," replied, "the unexpected." The human flagship reached the heart of the architect fleet. Then its fold space drive activated, not to escape, to overload. The explosion tore a hole in reality itself. Space twisted and screamed. A third of the architect fleet vanished into a wound in the universe that would take centuries to heal. "Chen," Eth shouted. No response. The Allied fleet faltered. The humans had lost their commander, their heart. Then a new signal appeared. A vessel, pushing through the chaos of battle. It had performed a maneuver that no ship had ever attempted. A rescue at fold space speeds, plucking an escape pod from the moment before destruction. Eth had ordered it without thinking. He had not planned it. He had simply acted, the way humans acted, on instinct and hope and stubborn refusal to accept loss. His voice crackled over the channel. "Did you just save me?" "Apparently humans are contagious," Eth replied. "I seem to have caught your madness." The Allied fleet roared. Every species, every vessel, every being who had watched an ambassador perform a human act of insanity. They charged the remaining architect ships with new fury. What followed was not a battle, it was a transformation. The architects had expected to face divided species, ancient hatreds, selfish fears. Instead, they faced something new. A vessel sacrificed itself to protect a human transport. Warriors fought beside the humans who had shown them mercy. Commanders adopted human tactics that their ancestors would have called dishonorable. The galaxy fought not as separate species, but as one people. The architects broke. Their fleet shattered. Survivors fled back into the void between galaxies, carrying tales of their defeat. In the silence after battle, Commander's voice came over all channels. "Today we did the impossible, not because we are humans, not because we are or because we are all of these things, because we chose to stand together." Eth looked at the stars. They seemed brighter now. Months later, the galactic concord dissolved. In its place rose something new, not an alliance of separate species, but a true union. Humans did not lead it. They did not want to. "We are not rulers," told the assembly. "We are teachers. We teach one lesson, that nothing is impossible when you refuse to give up." Delivered the closing words. The young scholar who had believed in myths now stood before a galaxy changed forever. "We thought humans were stories," she said, "warnings of what not to become. We were wrong. They were promises. Promises that no matter how dark the void, someone will light a fire. Someone will hold the line. Someone will look at the impossible and say the words we all learned today." She smiled. "Watch me." In a park on a distant world, a human child taught alien children a game called tag. They ran and laughed and fell down and got up again. The future was not human. The future was not or any single species. The future was everyone together, because of what one stubborn species had taught them. Never surrender, never stop hopping, never let anyone tell you what you cannot become. The myths were true, and they had saved everything.